Your chat shit's downloading, so we gonna react some shit, man. This shit's over. No, I thought that was what he was with. Horror animation. That's the reactions to horror animations.
out from Monday.com.
That happened when I was just 10 years old. Every summer, my family and I go on a beach vacation with my father's friend's family. We usually visit Puri, a place filled with beautiful temples and golden beaches. It's a tradition, and we love it. Normally, we've stayed at well-known hotels, but that summer, we hadn't booked in advance. There were no rooms available. The staff told us one would open the next morning, so for one night, we had no choice but to stay at a smaller, lesser-known hotel. That hotel sat near a graveyard.
Gotta do what we gotta do sometimes.
Far from the beach. But we decided it was just one night, so we would be fine. The day itself was wonderful. We played on the sand, watched the waves, and came back tired, ready for bed. And we all went to sleep early. But around 1 a.m., I woke up with a feeling I'll never forget.
Oh no.
I couldn't breathe. When I tried to move, I couldn't. It felt like something heavy was
Hold on a
pressing.
second. Let me make sure my cam isn't just too big for this. I'm everything. My cam isn't just
Breathe. When I tried to move, I couldn't. It felt like something heavy was
Hold on a
pressing.
second. Let me make sure my cam isn't just too big for this. No, my camera's fine.
Down on me, choking me. And in that moment, I knew it wasn't human. The room was pitch black, but in the shadows, I could make out a dark shape. I was only 10, and I screamed for my mother. For minutes, I couldn't breathe properly. My mother rushed to me, lifted me in her arms, and shook me awake. My father carried me out into the hallway. The hallway had no lights, only an empty, lonely sofa. No staff at the desk, just a large glass door glowing faintly with moonlight. Outside, dogs barked and yelped. Their cries echoed through the night, making the scene even more terrifying. My father laid me on the sofa, trying to wake me. He patted my cheek until I gasped and finally caught my breath. As I looked down the hallway, I saw it, a figure, standing in the corner, watching me. It was tall. Its hair floated in the air, as if caught in a breeze. I thought it was a woman, but I knew it wasn't.
Chat!
Its presence radiated.
Chat, you wake up in the middle of the night to go get grab. No, chat. It's 3 a.m., right? You eat cereal in your boxers. Then out of nowhere, this thing just walks around the corner. What are you doing? Boy, I'm busting them shots.
Anger. I was frozen. We went back to our room. I said nothing, not a word. The next morning, we checked out and went to a famous hotel. There, everything was normal. The rest of our vacation was perfect. But when we finally returned home, I told my parents what I saw. And that's when my heart stopped, because my mother admitted she had seen the figure too, that very night, standing in the same corner, staring, silent. She never told me at the time, and I never saw it again. But from that day forward, I was never the same. The fear of the dark stayed with me. I couldn't walk into unlit rooms, couldn't face dark hallways in hotels, especially hotels near cemeteries.
I've been here a long time.
So the hotels near cemetery and you still went.
Building, improving, adapting. 190 years old, but they keep me young. This isn't the end of the line for me. It's only the beginning.
Hello, my name is Rumiza. I've always wanted to share this story. This happened when I was about 11. It was a school holiday, and my siblings and I went to stay overnight at my aunt's house. We had so much fun, and when it was time for bed, the three of us slept on a mattress in the living room with my cousin. To give you a better picture, this is what the layout of my head.
Okay, so we got me here, I cool TV, I cool spot, sofa. Okay, we got our sofas in a room. Okay, cousin's room. We got the kitchen right next to my spot. Okay, the table, the wall, aunt's room. Alright, cool. Where's the front door?
House looked like. That night, I couldn't sleep because of a sore throat and a cough, so I stayed up watching YouTube on my cousin's tablet. It must have been around 3 a.m. I wanted to sleep, but the coughing just wouldn't stop. Finally, I turned off the tablet, determined to get some rest. Just then, I heard my cousin's bedroom door open. From where I was lying, I could clearly see if anyone came out, but no one did. And I never heard the door close again. I called out my cousin's name. No answer. Goosebumps spread across my skin, but I tried to ignore it. On the table in front of the door was a plastic bag. Suddenly, the bag's handle began to move. Startled, I called out my cousin's name again. The bag stopped. It wasn't the wind. First, the bag was full of something. And second, the movement wasn't in one direction. It was shifting, almost tugging. And with all the windows shut tight, there was no wind inside at all. Frightened, I turned to face my sister and closed my eyes, but I couldn't shake off the fear. I opened them again and glanced at the black screen of the now off TV. That's when I saw him, a man in a hoodie standing behind me, or at least in the reflection. His stance suggested he was right there, looming over top of me. He looked like my cousin, but it was only a reflection, and something inside me knew the truth. I turned around to check. No one was there. When I looked back at the TV, the figure had returned, only this time even closer. A wave of dread washed over me. I couldn't move, couldn't scream, couldn't do anything except cry quietly to myself. The figure was coming closer and closer. I whispered a prayer, clutching my sister, and eventually it vanished. I squeezed my eyes shut until sleep nearly took me.
Real power and prayer. Real power and prayer in it. What the Bradesky youngin'? Real power and prayer.
But the feeling of being watched never left. When I dared to open my eyes again, he was there, sitting on the sofa behind me, one leg crossed over the other, elbow resting lazily on the armrest, staring, as if he had always been there, as if he belonged there. And behind him stood another figure, tall, pale, only his upper body visible. I couldn't take it anymore. I forced myself to get up, bolted into my aunt's room, and shook her awake. I told her everything. She didn't believe a word. She just gave me cough medicine and let me sleep beside her. Only then did I finally fall asleep. The next morning, I told my siblings and my cousin. None of them believed me either. but I know what I saw. The figure in the TV might have been my imagination, but how do I explain the moving plastic bag? And the thought of that being sitting casually on the sofa, watching me like I was the intruder, still gives me goosebumps.
The Camp Leaders in-person hiring fairs are back, and this time we're in Dublin. This is your chance to fast-track your summer and land your dream job.
At the time, I lived in an old block of flats in England, and right next to my home stood an abandoned hotel, a massive 6-story building that had been rotting away for years, even before I moved in. One day, me, my cousin, and my sister decided we'd finally explore it. The hotel was surrounded by a tall fence, but it was crumbling, full of holes. It wasn't hard to slip through. Inside, the place was worse than we imagined. Blood smeared across doors, broken windows, empty rooms torn apart by squatters. The air was heavy, suffocating, like the walls themselves were warning us to leave. Behind the hotel, we found a dead patch of grass and an old, run-down shed. We didn't get too close. Just standing near it made our skin crawl. And then we heard it, the sharp scrape of metal against metal, like someone sharpening a knife. We didn't wait to find out. We turned back toward the hotel, but as soon as we opened the back door, a foul stench hit us. Rot, decay, something like a dead body. Still, we pressed on. We climbed the stairs to the first floor and made the worst decision of the day. We split up. I crept into a room filled with old shelves, books, broken furniture. In the corner stood a massive, worn-down closet. At first, it seemed ordinary, but then, tap, tap, tap. The sound was faint, but steady, like long nails drumming up against the inside of wood. My heart stopped when I realized it was coming from inside the closet. I bolted, out of the room, down the hallway, through the stairwell. My cousin and sister saw me and immediately followed. In the rush, I tripped hard, scraping my leg open, but I didn't dare stop. As we reached the exit, I made the mistake of looking back. And there she was, a woman, mid-20s maybe, long, greasy black hair, ripped, filthy clothes. She was standing just inside the doorway of the hotel, peeking at us from the shadows. That's when I knew we weren't alone in there. When we finally got home, I noticed my leg was bleeding badly from the fall, but the cut wasn't random. It had carved itself into the shape of a smiley face.
Oh no, you cursed, boy.
I didn't believe in ghosts.
Better go to church. You need Jesus now.
After what I saw, after what followed me home, I knew better. The hotel was torn down years later, replaced with new apartments. But for me, that night never left. Hey, my name is Ka. This happened to me about 4 years ago, and it still has me questioning the whole situation. One hot summer in the United Kingdom, I was going about my day until my mother, little sister, and I went over to my grandparents' house. We stayed there until it got dark. As we parked the car in front of our house, we all got out, shut the doors, and locked it. While walking to the door, I looked up at my bedroom window. That's when I saw it, a black silhouette, slightly slouched behind the curtain, just visible enough to notice. I had another sister who was home at the time, so I thought it was her trying to scare me. I called out to her, but the figure didn't move. I shrugged it off, thinking I
Niggas said they say this is a Megathon. I'm dead.
My heart dropped. She was sitting on the couch, studying. I started to panic. I knew I had seen someone, or something, staring down at me from my window. It couldn't have been my brother. He was asleep for work in the morning. Hesitantly, I walked upstairs and turned on the bedroom light. The room was perfectly normal, nothing out of place. I broke down crying to my mother about it, and she let me sleep in her room that night. Weeks later, I was finally back in my room. That's when something else began. My sister and I noticed a rotting smell in our bedroom. At first, only our mother picked up on it. She questioned us, but we were always clean. Still, the smell grew worse, and soon my brother and mother were noticing it too. She asked my stepdad to break open a shelf, thinking a rat might have died inside, but there was nothing, and the stench only got stronger in the heat of the day, then faded at night. Eventually, I moved out of my room and started sleeping on the floor in my mother's room. My sister stayed behind. The smell drove my mother crazy. She finally called the council, who sent investigators. Nothing. Days later, she called again. This time, the police came. We lived in an apartment. The officers began knocking on doors upstairs, questioning neighbors, until they reached one unit. The door was locked, or at least it should have been. When they tried forcing it open, it felt heavy. Finally, they pried it open, and that's when they found her. Behind the door lay the body of an elderly woman. One of the cops rushed outside to throw up. She had been dead for days. Later, my mother sat my sister and me down. She told us quietly, "Girls, that smell you've been inhaling was a corpse." We were in utter shock. My sister asked if they knew how she died. My mother said, "They're not sure. She was found behind her front door, so maybe a stroke, maybe a heart attack." The saddest part, they discovered she had no family. She lived alone, and she died alone. To this day, I still wonder if the silhouette I saw in my bedroom window was her. Maybe she was reaching out. Maybe she's still in that room with me.
Get dinner kits delivered to your door. Cook with fresh ingredients and try new and exciting recipes every week. Nothing beats dinner time.
Try Roblox in.
My family has had a history of horror and terrible things. I can remember all the stories that my aunts and uncles would tell me, but the earliest story I can remember was told to me by my mother. It was the late 90s. My mother was 15 years old at the time, living in Puerto Rico with her family. My mother had a friend. For privacy, I'll call her Carmen. They were best friends. They always played together and had sleepovers. Carmen was a huge part of my mother's childhood. One day, when my mother and Carmen were playing outside, a man approached them. He wasn't the spooky, scary old man, or the creepy guy you'd hear about in kidnapper stories. He was tall and handsome. My mother and Carmen knew him. Everyone did. He was well known around the church and the town for his kindness and good looks. He smiled, and they smiled back. They knew him, so they thought they could trust him.
"Hey, Lydia. Hey, Carmen. What are you girls doing?"
He asked with his usual smile. My mother and Carmen laughed and chatted with him, but then the conversation took a turn. He suddenly sighed.
"What's wrong?"
Carmen asked.
"It's just that my fridge is broken at my house, and no one wants to help me. I've asked all my friends, but they all said no."
Carmen looked at my mother and smiled. My mom knew that smile always meant Carmen had an idea.
"You know, me and Lydia could help."
Carmen said brightly. His sad face lit up.
"Really? I'd appreciate it."
Look at that smile.
Despite Carmen thinking it was
Playing
fun,
something.
my mother didn't.
I'm trust you for a second, Carmen.
"Carmen, we've never even been to his house. Your parents would never allow it. And besides, he's strong and big. Why would he need our help?"
Carmen just rolled her eyes and chuckled.
"Don't be such a scaredy cat, Lydia. He's super nice, and we both know him. If you don't want to, I'll just go with him myself."
Before my mom could respond, Carmen was already walking toward the man's car. My mother froze. She wanted to call out, but she couldn't move. She just stood there, watching, as Carmen climbed into the car. The engine started.
Zero survival
Waved
instinct.
from the window. My mother forced a nervous smile and waved back as the car drove away. The next day, my mother was washing dishes when she heard voices in the living room. She peeked and saw Carmen's parents talking to hers. When they noticed her, they rushed over.
"Lydia, dear, do you know where Carmen is?"
They asked. Her parents stood beside her, waiting for an answer. My mother replied,
"Yes, she went with Tulio to help him fix his fridge."
The room fell silent. Her parents looked concerned. Carmen's parents looked terrified. They thanked her, then quickly left. My mother felt uneasy. It was unlike Carmen to not come home. She always came home when the streetlights turned on. A day later, my mother was walking to school when she noticed a commotion near a house. Curious, she walked over and froze in horror. Carmen had been found. Her body was stuffed inside a black garbage bag. Her face was twisted in terror, her eyes rolled back. Behind the police tape, my mother saw Carmen's parents crying. After Carmen left with the man, he had taken her to his house and killed her. It was one of his neighbors who discovered the truth. Their dog had run to a garbage bag, scratching at it. When the neighbor looked closer, they saw Carmen, and they immediately called the police. Nobody could believe it. The kindest, most trusted man in their town had done the most evil thing. My mother never saw him again, but even now, she still has nightmares about him.
Can you please just hear me out?
No, all work management platforms are the same.
Monday.com is the one you'll actually love to use. It lets you set up your workflows yourself. No admin, no long approval process. You're in charge. If it's any type of work, marketing, sales, HR, llamas, and there's a free trial, so what's the harm?
You know what? I'm ready to fall in love.
I'm a young teenage girl, and this happened recently. I can still remember the image in my head, playing over and over again. I live in an apartment complex on the 3rd floor. I don't usually get visitors, and when I do, it's just my aunties and cousins coming over. On this particular day, I was lying on my bed, watching YouTube as usual. I don't have a phone anymore since it gave me a lot of trouble, and then stopped working permanently. Anyway, after watching YouTube, I got up to greet my stepdad as he came home from work. After greeting him, I went back to my room where my brothers were on their bunk bed. I shared a room with them, so I never had privacy of my own. As I was looking around, my brother suddenly said he heard knocking on the door. It was dark out, and I didn't believe him at first. Since I hadn't heard it, I shrugged it off. But then, I heard the knock. My brother got up, but I told him to sit back down on the bed. I'm the oldest, and I didn't want my younger brothers opening doors for strangers. I walked up to the door. There was a chair right next to it. For some reason, I didn't want the person knocking to know anyone was home. So I didn't move the chair in front of the door to look through the peephole. Instead, I climbed onto the chair, leaning close, almost falling as I tilted my body to look. And that's when the fear hit me. I won't forget what I saw through the peephole. It was a masked man, wearing a blue raincoat, almost like some kind of government worker. He was standing slightly slanted to the side, but what terrified me most was the gun. He held it right up to the peephole, almost as if he wanted whoever was looking to see it. Heart racing, I slowly stepped down from the chair. I slipped off my slides so they wouldn't make a sound. I turned to my brothers and gestured with my hand, shaping a gun, warning them to be silent. I quickly shut off all the lights and ran into my stepdad's room to tell him what I had just seen. What made it worse was that right before the man came, the electricity went out, and the internet too. That made it feel even scarier. My brothers ended up coming into my stepdad's room as well. We used the flashlight on his phone, since the ceiling light in his room didn't work. The knocking continued. My stepdad wanted to check the peephole himself, but I wouldn't let him. I was too scared that even the slightest sound would give us away. We stayed in the room for over an hour. Eventually, it seemed like the man had left, because we heard a little boy and his parents walking into their apartment on our floor. We could also hear kids playing downstairs on the 1st floor. That was when I finally called my mom and asked if we could go to my
Why
aunt's
nobody
house
called the police?
without telling her what had happened. We left in a hurry. I never saw that man again, but the thought still terrifies me. What if I had let my brother open the door? I'm currently 28 years old.
Nah, chat, that's scary as hell. I can't lie. Nah, chat, imagine that. Nah, chat! Imagine that being you! Imagine you're just chilling, you knock the door. That's why you can't be letting kids open doors. Kids, they will just run to a door and open it when they hear a knock, you know? Bother to ask, bro. But chat, that's enough of the reactions for today. So, I'll catch you all, boys. And